Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is Go Again, a fabulous video cast covering the trading card game Flesh and Blood. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando.
Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast for the long-awaited third installment in the Frostbite series. So tonight we're going to be looking at how some of our favorite Blitz heroes and some of the CC heroes that play differently into Blitz can handle Frostbite in this new meta. Hey there, fab folks. Welcome back, and thank you very much for joining. So yes, it's been a bit since the first two installments. We've had a lot of other stuff going on, as you're well aware. You'll notice also I'm kind of pumping the brakes on the joke a little bit. I brought the hat back, but I don't have the coat on. So yeah, tonight we are looking at kind of the Blitz side version of what we talked about in the previous episode, was really looking at how the various heroes are going to be able to handle Frostbite, if at all. And again, before we kind of dive into this, I do want to remind everybody that the approach we're taking in this is really looking at one Frostbite token, meaning kind of like how are you going to be able to change your curve by one? How will you deal with that if you can? And the logic behind that is pretty clear, right? At the point where you start to accumulate, the point where you start to put multiple Frostbites in play under your opponent, at a certain point, it doesn't matter who the hero is or like really what they're playing, because they're kind of just going to be boned, right? So that's why I thought the way to approach this exercise was to look at it as increasing your cost curve by one, right? Because again, once you get to 3 and they're requiring a whole nother card and they can't tune it because they have to pay for it, then it all goes out the window anyway. All right, so fair enough. That is the plan for this evening. So what I'm showing up right now is a summary table. So the heroes we're going to be looking at tonight are Aria, Benji, Kassai, Kayo, Kavdane, and then Dash and Prism, kind of from a Blitz, from a Blitz focus standpoint. Now, the two that I do acknowledge exist but that I'm not really going to be talking about are Data Doll and Shiana. Data Doll, I got a bit wild. So both of these guys have never tried playing. Shiana, I honestly don't even know where to start, guys, right? So I'm just leaving her off the list. Hopefully I'm sure there's a couple of people out there who've tried Shiana in some facet or the other. But I don't have the reps with it to even talk intelligently about it, right? And so instead of sitting here and BSing you, I just don't. And then Data Doll's like, she's got so many other problems. I don't think she cares about Frostbite, right? Like she's just not really playable. I know there's people out there who've tried, but I've never played her, nor have I played against her. I have played against one Shiana before, but it doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and hit searings. So anyway, hopefully you'll forgive me for that. I think most people are going to understand why I'm not doing those two. But anyway. All right, so let's go into Aria. So I think a lot of Aria, I think it's very similar to Katsu. She probably comes out a little better even than Katsu, right? And I'm comparing to CC here, but I don't know why right now that's why I don't have Katsu on here. Like, I don't know why you would play Katsu over Aria in Blitz. There's a couple arguments for it, but like, I think you wouldn't, right? So, and I think Aria comes out even better than Katsu does, right, is my point. So, because there's a lot of times, like a lot of the Aria decks, they'll do a blue 0, but like they won't even, a lot of times you can do a yellow 0 because you'll go stab free, right? Stab into an exude, or stab into a snatch, or something to that effect. Or maybe then you use your other, maybe it's stab, soul bead, something else, right? You guys get it, right? Scar for scar, whatever it may be, right? You guys get it. So I mean, it's not like she wasn't already having a reliance on kind of the 0-drop finishers, but I mean, I think she can just skew more to that. It doesn't have to worry about it, right? So, maybe instead of your, torrent to tempo or whatever you're trying to do for your third one, maybe instead of your leg tap, right, you're doing Soul Bead and Crane Dance line or something like that, right? So I think Ira's okay to deal with one. She might even be okay to deal with two, depending on how many cards she has in her hand, right? So Benji's kind of an interesting beast. So I had Ira at low. I have Ira at low, but I think Benji is really medium. And the reason I say that is because he tends to run, right? So like Life for a Life, for example, right? Life for a Life is a card that Benji will use because he can, right? So because remember his Benji's Kodachis his weapons aren't unblockable, right? So he's depending a little more on the actions, and a lot of them do cost one, right? I mean, obviously not all, but a lot of them do, right? You're trying to do cool things like, I've seen like Brandish or stuff like that, right? So I think it does kind of mess with things a little bit for Benji. I don't think it's huge, but I do think he's going to end up having to stab more than just trying to like roll for free, right? Because I have seen Benji turns where he doesn't pitch, right? I've seen that. I'm sure you guys have seen that. He'll kind of slide in a 0-2 on a Soul Bead and hit, and then slide in something else, and then like, he doesn't necessarily need to pitch, so maybe he doesn't even Kodachi that turn. So that's why I'm saying it may have to skew. I don't know how much it does to his deck overall, but I think it might have to skew his playstyle. But at the same time, I think you're hoping they're moving a little slower. So I think it works out okay for you. And that again, that's why I have him at medium, is because I don't think it's huge impact, but I do think there will be some impact. All right, next let's talk Kassai, right? My girl Kassai. So this one is interesting because I love Kassai. I have a lot of reps with her. I've played her in many different ways. And I think that it's low, but it depends on your build, right? So in the very early days of Kassai, I was running like a red-yellow line, right? Where I was like, okay, let's take the traditional warrior cost curve and let's drop it by 1 because we get that second swing for free, so I can just output my damage by 1. I mean, that's the basic logic there, right? Instead of playing red-blue Valor, you were playing red-yellow Valor, right? That kind of logic. But what I've done over time, though, or not what I've done over time, I've realized that what I think the right curve for her is to essentially run something very similar, maybe a little lower, but still very similar to what you would run like a traditional Thea. And you're still running a lot of those blues. So I think that's why I think that's the right play with Kassai, and that's why I think it's low, right? If you're running the redliner version, I think it's not low for you, right? But I also think I personally believe that the kind of the blue curve-ish, not blue curve, but you know what I'm saying, right? The budget for 3 curve, right? Where you're running your second swings, that type of thing, where you're trying to get that second resource to do something else. That's where I'm going here, right? I think that's the right build, and I think in that case, you're okay. You just maybe don't second swing that time and you arsenal it, or you don't come over the top that time, right? Because you see it spoils into your swing, you spin the extra, you just don't over the top, or you don't do whatever. You just come in and throw one thing out. So I think Kassai can. I think Kassai's fine, right? Actually, I'm pretty positive Kassai is fine at 1. I mean, it's not going to be great because she loses like second swings, like a big part of that deck, right? Because of the curve advantage. So losing that is not small, right? But it's, she can keep doing her thing. And again, if you're taking the angle that they have to move a little slower to be pooping out the tokens on you, then I think it holds up. All right, so now let's go into our buddy Kayo. So this guy's interesting. I do have a disclaimer here that I've never personally played Kayo, but I've played against a lot of Kayo because it was like one of Josh's things, right? Josh the intern, it was like one of his things early on. And I think actually that Kayo is not as bad as you might think also. So it's not great for him, right? That's why I have him higher than some of the others we've seen. And I think his deck overall, like I think he requires some curve changes, but I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing for him to begin with. So, right, Tear Limb from Limb is 2, and it works into any number of 2-drops that have 6+, right? Because that's Kayo's deal, right? So generally, you kind of need 2 pitches anyway, right? So if you're dealing with a 2 and a 2 or a 3, and you're going to need 2 pitch cards anyway, that's why I'm saying I think if you have just a little higher cost curve to begin with, which probably isn't a bad thing heading into this meta, right? I think you can probably still manage your resources pretty well, right? So, and again, if you're a huge KO guy and you disagree with that, please let me know below. Like, I honestly do want to hear and have the conversation going. But like I'm saying, I am seeing a lot of 2-drops out there now, and since that's always 2-card pitch, I'm thinking that, changing his curve by 1 isn't necessarily the end of the world, right? I mean, you have, what is it? It's, not Arc Smash, it's a Swing Big Tree. That's what I was like, Swing Big Tree, right? Like, you have that now and you didn't used to, right? And so yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But like I said, please let me know if you disagree. Now, Cavdane. Okay, so Cavdane, I actually called in the big guns for this, right? So my buddy Adam, DC team guy Adam from Ganga as well, he is like, Cavdane's like his thing, right? So what I proposed to him, I said, what I think is its medium, but this is based off his, like the experience I have, the reps I have are playing against his, so basically all the decisions I make are playing off his, so why not just ask him, right? So based off his build, what I said was, I think you probably don't take a huge deck change because you can't, because he's running a lot of blues anyway, which makes sense because of Cavdane's ability. And I said likely, because the way that Adam plays his deck is generally he's kind of just trying to get his big hit combo in anyway, right? So that's why I said there are strategy impacts and play changes, likely more careful timing, with not a ton of like build and play style changes. Just you have to be a little more timing focused on it. So I answered him and I said, what do you think about this? And he said, short answer, yes. Generic good stuffs and combo haymaker, slogism, regurgitating, can essentially play the same with the adduction of Frostbite with relatively little impact, mostly due to Cavdane running lots of blues. And he goes on with a long explanation. I will put it in the comments below so that you guys can read his full explanation. I mean, he took a lot of time to write it, and I really appreciate it. He kind of goes down into specific matchups that are affected there, right? But largely he agreed with the notes in the image. Now, he does go into kind of what a lot of his fillers are, kind of the low to the ground stuff, right? Your E-strikes, your Scar for Scars, especially Scar, like Cavdane doesn't hate Scar for Scar, right? So now what he does note is he says, and I quote, if Oldhim Ice Lexi become more popular in Blitz, important to watch out for a skirmish upcoming, then I would change my list, but only for a few cards that defend 2 to become cards I would defend 3 with. Right, so which is really interesting and I think a really insightful observation, probably that applies to all of these heroes, right, is he's not necessarily changing his cost curve, so to speak, but he is cutting advantageous attacks for more defense. And that might not apply to every hero, but for him, where he's trying to basically play a little more control-esque and kind of get his combo set up, I thought that was really insightful, right? So thank you, Adam, for this and for sharing. I thought that was really cool, and it just made sense to me to get the pro on it. All right, so the last 2 I want to talk about are CC heroes that I believe play different in Blitz. So Prism is definitely a different beast in Blitz. She does. She has to, in my opinion, she has to swing a little more heavy haymaker, and she's allowed to do that because of the right. You only get to pop your gloves once, and when you pop your gloves once and swing for 12 in Blitz, it's a lot bigger than it is in CC, right? So yes, she still has the tome. She still has the tome turns, doing the dominate with erudition and all that, right? But she does tend, I believe she favors a little more to the haymaker strategy in Blitz, right? Which makes sense. You want to come over the top. So I think that what she has to do, because if she's running all yellow, like that's, Prism's at huge risk for it, unless she kind of changes her thought process, right? Because if you're running all yellows and you have twos, you're kind of boned, right? So I think that, in many cases, you're kind of running a little bit more skewed red blue as it is. So that's what kind of why I know a red blue heavy deck can basically help in the more swingy format, right? The more over the top format. So that's kind of my thing there is, maybe, I know there are some decks out there that don't run Phantasmaclasm. Maybe Phantasmaclasm makes a comeback. You're probably running a couple of extra blues anyway because you're probably trying to like Herald, Footsteps, War Tune, Footsteps, War Tune. They're all Herald. So that's the line of thought there. But again, I think that largely depends on what your build is going for. Honestly, it's interesting because if they don't do any damage to you and you have Kodachi auras out there, like you could actually use that to your advantage to have yellow then in your pitch zone, right? Because you'd have to do the Frostbite before you do your thing because it's an ability, right? So I think that's kind of cool actually that like if you're running Aura Prism, if you're running Kodachi Aura Prism, like it could actually work in your favor, right? To just kind of get you like a good stab turn and then arsenal and be ready for the next thing. So that's kind of a neat thing to consider. Last hero I want to talk about is Dash. So Dash has never traditionally done great in Blitz. There's a couple reasons for that. I mean, the first and foremost being that the boost strategy is really hampered because of your deck size, right? I mean, I don't think I need to explain that one. But she also has to tend to be a little more aggro because like your pistol can't just kind of do it on its own, right? So you kind of do have to just go for it, and you're likely already set up for boosting. And I think that boost is probably okay for this because you still have a lot of twos, you have a lot of ones on boost. Now the problem is you need to pay multiples of them, but you can always just maybe boost once and then pistol out, right? So I think she's okay there in terms of like I don't know what like deck like if you're already in that frame, I don't know that you change your deck much because like you're already running a lot of blues as it is, and you kind of just maybe switch up your strategy a little bit. The question is then if you're getting less out of it, are you putting yourself actually more at risk for decking yourself? I think probably you are. So actually, I know I have medium written there, but while I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking it might actually be high. Because I think that your move out of it in CC is to try and go more boost heavy. But then now that I'm thinking about it, like going more boost heavy in Blitz probably hurts you because that's kind of your problem anyway. So yeah, it probably needs to not be medium. But let me know if you guys agree. I mean, there's a lot of people out there have a lot more reps with Dash than I do. So I'd love to hear your feedback. But on all the heroes, let me know your feedback. So, all right, that will wrap us up. I'll put up the table once more again. I don't know what data talent you want to do. I just got to be honest. But anyway, so that'll wrap up the series. Like I said, this one was one I kind of thought of while we were shooting the other one. So, but I wanted to make sure we got it closed out because Blitz is its own thing. I didn't feel that there were many of the other heroes I didn't feel played quite differently enough to like be worthy or not be worthy, but be worth the extra time in the video because we kind of already covered them in general. And I think like Dorinthea, I think plays basically the same. Bravo basically plays mostly the same in Blitz. I mean, for the most part, he might even be a little more aggressive in Blitz. So anyway, you guys get the idea. So anyway, thank you very, very much for tuning in. I just want to remind everybody we have another tournament coming up on Saturday at Gangai. Having a good time. We are kind of having a little more fun with Blitz recently. I got to go to a great Blitz tournament this last weekend. I ended up winning it. Woo! Or I should say going 4-0. Everybody won because we all got beer and got to play cards, right? But anyway, thank you, everyone. Come check us out at Gangai. Travis over at Fab Founder actually co-hosted that event last weekend with me and the Bunsen Brewer who hosted it. So that was a good time. So shout out to Travis and over at Fab Foundry. And you know what, folks? Thanks very much for tuning in. I love continuing to interact with you guys and keep them coming. Nothing else, folks. Go Commando.